All right, we're live at episode 27 of the War Room. I know a lot of people are joining us from Scotty's live. Scotty, I appreciate you hopping over here. Uh,
Oh,
this
no
is
problem.
this is the type of stuff that we need in the demolition derby world. Your followers become mine, and vice versa. And people want to hear what you have to say. Maybe not what I have to say, but they want to hear what you got to say for sure.
I get you. I think that's the one thing the derby industry I don't like the most is it's either you either get one side or the other, and there's not really an in between.
So let's keep going with what we were talking about. It looked like people were entertained on that.
So where were we at on that? I can't remember exactly.
What are your let me get your thoughts on the format. What was your thoughts going into the format? What have
So
you heard and what was it like?
so I truly love the format for the same reason a lot of guys that ran out there Gold Rush love the format because it gets rid of the politics. When I pulled onto that track, I knew there's one way out of here, and it's beating Kidman, and it's beating who was I can never remember his name. Who was the third guy in my heat?
Kinman
I think it
and
was
I can look it up quick.
Barnes. I think it was something
Yeah,
Barnes.
Jacob Barnes. Jacob
That's who it
Barnes.
was.
He got flipped early.
I always get it confused between him and Jacob Beaver just because they're so close in names. But so I knew when I pulled onto that track, there's one way off of here, and there's no other way out of this heat to get to the feature. And the part I love the most is that it gets rid of the politics until you get into the feature and it's just back to regular derby. Because I mean I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm in my eyes I wanted to go there to derby. I didn't really realize that how bad the politics were gonna play out, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot. Like, hey, the politics doesn't fix the feature. To that, I will say no, but it helps. And I've made this argument a lot to people when they say this. It's how many heats were there at our show? Do you remember?
To be honest with you, I cannot.
There were five. So there were five heats. Then there were two consies. So we have 7 events prior to the feature. All of them ran the format. So 7 of the 8 events that we ran with those cars, it was fixed. So if you fixed 83% of the problem, well, 83% is a lot better than zero because no
I
one
get
else
you.
has any answer for anything, right?
I get what you're saying. So what? So is it would it ever be possible for the format to be all the way down to the very end? Because I mean, for me at least, I thought it was pretty cool down there at Gold Rush when it was Ciopas and RPM Redemption battling it out head on head to the very end. I personally thought that was the pretty cool thing to do because then it gets rid of all the politics. Like last night when I had Burkhardt on live, he said that the politics were it was good down until it got to where the politics mattered.
I believe it can be, but I also believe that the sport has to make a transition into entertainment first. So the drivers have to understand they're there to entertain first. That's probably going to require them being paid. And once that happens, yeah, it can be absolutely dynamite and all politics are taken out. Until then, I don't see a way. The only thing that we can do is limit the feature and prevent everybody's buddies from being there. So it really, tugs on those strings of how tight are your alliances. When it's not your brother, it's just like some guy that you've talked to. And, that creates that drama. And you need a little bit of that drama, right? Somebody took a wheel shot on you that shouldn't have. You're dealing, it kind of started at King of Ohio for you. You're going to have this rivalry for quite a long time, Scotty, with Allen's. And there's no shying away from it. That's why I mentioned it now. But it's really good for the sport. It's really good.
When it comes to them guys, I truly don't even know them enough to say I don't like them as people. I just from my perspective, when we were at the King of Ohio, when I when so after the heat it was all good, and then the day of the feature comes, I ran the compact class, and before we go out for the feature when they're cleaning the track off, doing all that stuff, I'm like talking to people and I'm realizing as this is playing out that like everybody I talk to says they have to deal with the Allens. So I'm decent at math, you know, I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm a mathematician in any means, but the way the numbers worked out, if 9 cars are running with 2 people down to the very end, and I'm not, that just ain't good. So I was kind of out fairly quickly, but like I don't really have a problem with the Allens as people. It's I just want to beat them, you know. Which if it's a problem to want to beat somebody, then I guess it is a problem. I don't know.
Well, we need that. We need that in our sport, and we need it to, and there to be times when you definitely dislike somebody because I don't know if you heard the rumor, but I heard they were selling some shirts or something, icebreaker shirts or something like that from John Rutherford. Is
Well,
that true? Are they selling icebreaker shirts?
oh God, John. You
And
know they very well might be.
I
You
think
know,
they're giving them. I think they're giving them away with one of their bumper. If you buy a bumper, you get an icebreaker T-shirt.
oh gosh, you know I love John to death, but like he's not a very reliable source because like everybody in Kansas thinks that I live in Pennsylvania. I
I'm
live in
telling you what.
Ohio.
When he told me that on the phone, you were in the car, right?
I just got there when he told you that.
Oh my gosh, I was laughing so hard. I mean, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Now, some people listening don't know the background of that, but that's not true. But I thought it funny. I thought it was funny because we need those type of rivalries in the sport. Because I think what you guys will learn is you guys will learn to respect each other. Jeff Gordon and Dale Earnhardt didn't always see eye to eye, but they learned to respect each other. I want to see those rivalries and I want to see them happen. And, like I want to see you win. I want to see them win. I want to see the stuff that Don sent. Were you at Metal Mayhem last year?
I
Or did
was
you see it?
not. I think I watched it, but I was not there. No.
So this is what our sport like fails to cover right here. Okay. So at Metal Mayhem last year, one of these rivalries was happening. It was between Adam Eaton and Zach Eaton and Don Santel and Trevor Jones. I mean, you can't really get bigger names than that in the
Oh,
sport.
not at
And
all.
they were getting it on and nobody talked about it. And earlier in the year, Adam Eaton got the best of Don Santel and Trevor Jones, and no one really talked about it then. And it was like, man, like this is an awesome opportunity to, this sells right here. And obviously, Don and Trevor never forgot that. Well, Don ends up getting the best of Adam. I mean, and they really got the best of them. And Don did donuts in the middle of the track with about 15 cars to go, and then proceeded to go on and win the Derby, which was his 4th Metal Mayhem. Nobody even mentioned it. Like, what are we doing as a sport? If you're not mentioning that and you're not talking about that, I'm like flabbergasted because this was the greatest. I mean, the greatest thing I ever seen. And I like both of these guys, but you want to talk about selling? Shoot, that was freaking. You couldn't write a script better than that.
I get what you're saying. Which I can't. I'm going to talk to Don about that this Thursday.
Ask him about that. He literally whipped, and it wasn't even. I went back and watched the live, Derby Tees. It wasn't on there. They didn't mention it. You only could see it if you were there. I mean, Scotty, when he was doing donuts, imagine sitting there in your car. Okay, you're going after me, and you beat me. I'm sitting in my car, and you're whipping donuts, throwing dirt straight in my face. Like, jeez, Pete. Like, this is crazy.
That's awesome. You know, like going back to the thing with the Allens real quick. Like, I mean, if I drew one of them in the heat at King of Ohio, like I'd be down to do it. I don't like because the way I went into that show last year is I'm here to compete to see how great I really am. And I think when I pull on that track that I can hang with almost anybody there is. The problem is going back to the politics thing is I can't compete when it comes down to me and him and his brother. it's just it's hard to beat one of them as it is because they're really good drivers. I'm not going to knock anything to them, but when it gets down to 1-on-2, what you're helpless. One will hold and one will fold, and it'll be same old, same old. But the thing the Allens did a great job of, which was really respectable to be honest with you, is they have this aura going around them that basically makes them untouchable in a way. Because I forget which one was in the concert. He basically walked through it, which it's nothing but respectable at the end of the day, in my opinion. But it is what it is.
To that, I would say you better find a friend in the feature and you better get it on with them, because that's the only way that you earn respect. The only way you're going to earn respect is to get it on with them. And it's no different than Brian Hendrickson and what he did. Look, the next time me and Brian Hendrickson are on the track, I guarantee you he will not hit me like that again. Okay? So, and I'll just say that. Like, you're not going to hit me like that again. And he went out right after that, or it would have been bad news for him. And I'm dead serious. But that's the attitude you got to have too. You got to have that attitude too, because you can beat two at one time. It takes one tire shot and then one tire shot, and they're both done.
Very well possible. I don't know. That's the one thing that I fought the most this year was just being out of politically. You know what I mean? Like I go there and it gets down to me, and then I just have no numbers on my side, and then you just get held and felled basically. Which, I mean, I'm not complaining. It is what it is. It's part of the sport. I've been on both sides of it. When it just depends on the side you're on. When you're on the side that's doing the holding and folding, you'd care less. But I don't know. It is what it is.
So I wanted to ask you. That's kind of a learning curve that you were transitioning from the youth, all right, to the big cars, right? And there's no clear path in the Derby world for a guy to transition. And I don't think it would be fair to say even you have as much experience as any Derby driver at your age ever. But I still don't think that you have enough experience in the big shows yet, if that makes sense. And that's no disrespect to you. You're just still getting your feet wet in that. I think it's going to be tough because, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but competing at these big shows, you may go through a down period. You're used to winning, and not winning is going to be hard, and it is very hard. There's going to probably be a down period, so where you're going to have to probably take a stance and really earn some respect from these drivers on the track. Have you thought about any of that?
Well, I mean, yeah, to be honest with you, the main thing that kind of crossed that I'm kind of still adjusting to when it comes to like running on the adults with the next and the bigger level is that it's, how do I say this? It's easier to make people mad, and I have this problem where I tend to care, like if you hate me or not. I don't know why, but I do, So it's going out there knowing like if I do this guy's going to want to take it off the track, and this is going to be a huge problem that I don't want to deal with. So I just let it be for as long as possible, and then I end up losing the fight because I didn't take the first shot. Happens often, but there's only one way to fix that.
So that's what the format does, right? It takes it out. It makes you do that. That's what we need in our sport. We need, not only do we need that, though, we need to be able to sell it prior to the show. I say this all the time. When people buy tickets to a concert, right, they don't buy tickets blindly. They know that they're buying tickets to, let's say, Taylor Swift, okay? They don't just say, I'm just going down to the venue to see who's playing. But in the Derby world, that's what we ask our fans to do. If we want you guys to truly become superstars, we're going to need that from you. We're going to need to know where you're running. We're going to need to, make sure that your following's there and they know that Scotty Drevenak is going after Allens and there's a rivalry there. And we're going to need to hype all that up. And when you guys draw each other in the heat, we're going to need some interviews like right before going in. Hey, what do you think? Like, it sells. That's how we sell our sport. Does that make sense to you?
I get what you're saying, which, like I said, like when it comes down to it, I'll take any driver one on one. And I don't. The thing that I see a lot of people that like they don't like to do that stuff is because it's going to hurt their ego. It's going to hurt their pride. I do that to myself on a regular basis. There's nobody that's harder on myself than myself. So, I mean, let's say I could draw Pete. I'll battle it out with Pete. I might not win that exchange, but I'm going to learn from it. And that's kind of the only thing you can really do at the end of the day when it comes to a lot of those.
So let's throw that circumstance out there. For example, in the format, you draw Pete. There's a lot of things that does. For the first time ever, a guy like Pete Hansen is allowing you to be on the stage that he's on. Because most times they don't, right? Most times they'll take care of you in the heat, or you'll get taken care of at like 10th just because of the politics. But in this format, Scotty, you have an opportunity to beat Pete Hansen. And if you do that at 18 years old or 17 years old, it's unforgettable. You know, the torch is being passed. We have these moments in other sports that can happen. In our sport, we don't even allow that to be a moment. Like the people at the top of our sport are so protected that they can't ever lose. And we can't have that. And then if some of them, if they do lose, it's not good. Like you said, there's consequences to that. So we've got to understand to be better, because guys like you need that stage. I go back to go ahead.
Like, I weigh 140 pounds. Okay, I'm not a fighter. If the guy's mad, I'm not the guy that can throw hands. You know what I mean? So, hypothetically, let's say I got it out, like me and Pete drew each other in the heat. That is one of the ones that no matter if, like, let's say I beat Pete beats me, we're gonna get out and shake hands. Because that's when it comes to like a show like that, that's all you can really do is get out, and at the end of the day, as long as everybody's happy at the end of the day, that's all that matters. As long as you can get out and shake everybody's hand, that's the only thing you can do. Like when I went out there to Topeka this year, everybody got out and shook everybody's hand. You don't see that around here at all.
No, you don't. And I don't necessarily think you have to do it, because like I said, I like the rivalries. I like the storylines with that. But you also can't go out and just try to fight everybody. You can't do that. You can't take cheap shots. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. NASCAR promotes fighting on pit lane, right? First one, the guy that swings first always gets the punch in. Everybody else breaks it up. I'm not promoting that at all, but it does sell, and confrontation sells. But like, it's only worth it if we capture it. If we don't have a camera there to capture it, then hell, we just got into podcasting as a sport in order to talk about these moments. I mean, we're doing something right now, Scotty, that most people shy away from, right? Most people do not want us to do this. They do not. You've heard it. I'm sure there's naysayers and that you're around that says you should never do this.
Here's what it is. I mean, because everybody wants to keep the sport secretive and keep all this stuff secretive, which is fine. But I think that goes back to the part where, like, I'll take anybody on. Am I going to lose? Maybe. Am I going to win? Maybe. But I'm not afraid to take somebody on. You know what I mean? And that's where a lot of people shy away in a way, is because they said in their mind, if I don't have all the advantages, then I'm not as good as I can be, not as good as I am. I'm not gonna lie, I tend to take that same mindset in from occasionally, but I try not to. But it's just how we are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, look, the game that you have been playing growing up has asked you to be the last car running. You're really good at being the last car running. Okay. That's, in other words, you're really good at winning shows. I saw some comments come up about you sandbagging and this and that. I don't understand that hatred, but also you just got to appreciate it too, because if they weren't saying anything, Scotty, then you wouldn't be winning.
I get you. Like when it comes to stuff like that, when Floyd Mayweather wins another fight. You think he cares that nobody's saying, man, you didn't throw enough haymakers in there? No, he's Floyd Mayweather. Who cares? He won. It's Floyd Mayweather.
He doesn't, but I think we'd be lying to say it doesn't bother us. It bothers me. I mean, people talk bad about me and this and that. It bothers me. I'd be lying to say it didn't. It's always easy to say, hey, it just rolls off my shoulders or rolls off my back. But, I put everything I have into this, into the promotion, and there's reasons why. I told you. And I'm sure it bothers you too, in a way.
Like, I don't. The ones that bother me are the people that I look up to in a way, the people that I respect, the people that I thought were on my side. It's when I see those people coming up and saying all this stuff, that's when it really gets to me. Other than that, I don't like. I can read a comment, I can forget about it. But like, it's when somebody that I looked up to and like respected and admired in a way, that's when it starts to like hurt and really makes me set everything back and like refocus everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's going to happen a lot, I think. And you're going to definitely find out who's really beating the drum of Iceman and who's really just along for the ride. And a guy like you that has the opportunities that you have, especially Scotty, I really truly believe this. You're going to have the first opportunity to be a professional derby driver. There's going to be a lot of weight on your shoulders, and there's going to be a lot of hate coming your way. And I don't know if anything that I can say or anything that will prepare you for that, because we haven't been down that road. The sport hasn't been down that road. I hope that everything that you've experienced, your shoulders are broad enough to carry that weight for the sport.
I mean, pretty much, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's only words. You know what I mean? Like they're not the ones that I'm talking to 24/7. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I mean, when it comes to progressing the sport, I would love to see that happen, but it's getting there first. Like, if we get to the point, like, I think it'll all work out, but it's just getting there and getting everybody to agree on everything. Because, like, I think the only thing that I can look at derbying right now as is like when America was first starting and nobody could agree on each other on anything before they united. Like, that's the only thing I can like somewhat compare where Demolition Derby is at right now. You know what I mean? Because nobody agrees on anything. We all have 17 different ideas where the sport should go, where it should not go. It is just, it stays in the same spot because nobody can come together, think of anything like that. You know what I don't know.
Well, this is my commitment to you. I will commit to doing everything I can to get those people to the table to make this a sport. You have to commit to being a superstar of the sport and carry the burden that comes with that.
I think I'm down for that. I think when it comes to burdens, the only burdens is that they just won't be able to run as many shows.
It's going to be a lot of weight, man. I know that I can't do it, and I can't do it alone, on the promoting side, but I'm going to get these players to the table, and we are going to organize this sport. It is 100% going to happen, and that is exactly why you are going to become a superstar of our sport.
Let's do it.
There's a lot that goes into that now. But yeah, I mean, that's going to happen. Hey, on that note, who's guys that you currently look up to in the sport? Who do you call for advice?
Who do I call for advice? Other than my dad, if it's I either call like guys like Rutherford's or Pete, or I'm like Casey Smith, Frankie Guy. Who else is there? Penwells. Like, I'm at a point now where it's not where I used to be a few years ago. Like, my call list, the people that I talk to on a daily basis, I try to live it by the saying of be surrounded by people that you want to be like. So what I did was I found some of the people that like I looked up to and respected and got them on, and that's who I try to talk to on a daily basis. You know what I mean? If I'm building a car, I'll talk to Pete for hours about it Granted, Julie might talk about the same thing 7 times, but it's getting the idea out there and just like running that through my brain and trying to progress everything in the right direction. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a comment here. Growth equals change. It does. It certainly does. A lot of people don't want to change, and I get it. You know, human nature is to not change, but in order to grow, we must change, and you know that's part of it.
When it comes to change, I mean, let's be honest. Like I know right now I'm not where I want to be. Like that's why I started waking up at 5:30 in the morning and going to the gym every morning. It sucks, but I mean I don't want to be where I'm at right now. And the same thing could be said for derbying and a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah, man. I think it's going to be a really special moment when a group of us get together and start going the same direction. And you know, that's what we're trying to create with the King. You ask why I got into promoting. That is what we're trying to create. Uh, in every way possible, people will try to tear you down. And I know you read a lot of books and this and that. I I said why. I listen to a lot of books of growth and stuff like that. But look, I'm telling you, the juice is worth the squeeze. Whatever we're going through, whatever hatred comes our way, it's worth it because someday people are going to grow up wanting to be you, and that's really cool. That's going to be a really cool moment, and it might be 10 years, it might be 15 years from now, but it's going to happen, man. And that's a result of a group of people saying we're going to move this direction. I'm not going to solve every problem overnight. You know, we're not going to solve every problem overnight, but we're going to start moving this direction.
I get what you're saying, and like that's one of the coolest things about the entire thing when it comes to the social media and all the other stuff. Like that's for a while I stopped posting and doing all the social media stuff until I started going to more shows and like the countless amounts of like little kids, you know, the Power Wheels youth kids, they all look up to me as like this figure. And like in my head, I'm just some guy that makes videos and derbies. You know, I don't look at myself as anything other than that. So to be put in that situation when I have some 8-year-old like saying that he looks up to me and his mom telling me that like I'm his like I'm the kid he's writing person he's writing like reports about in school is just like it's amazing, but like mind-boggling in a way. The fact that just by doing simple stuff like posting stuff on the internet and trying to be a good person, it's like that effective on people.
Yeah, and those are the types of things, Scotty, that, like I said, I hope that your shoulders are big enough to handle, because none of us have been down that road, and really, the only people that have are professional athletes. So to take advice from any of us is kind of, I mean, we're just kind of like, oh, I don't know. I think this is how it should be, or this is how it should feel, or whatever. We're going to be along the ride with you, and you're going to have to explain this to the next people, right? That get stopped at derbies for autographs and stuff like that. Right now, it's I would venture to say a lot of people are probably in the too cool crowd to stop and give autographs to kids. But that's going to change. It's going to change, and you're gonna be the part of that.
I love taking pictures, doing autographs. The only problem that I have with it is when I'm like a dead man this year. I felt terrible for a week because it's like it was about to go. I was about to get in the car to go into the heat. And my mind's racing. You know, I'm doing all this stuff trying to get in the zone. You know, and like this little kid comes up to me and takes a picture, and I wanted to talk to him a little more, but I couldn't because I had to like do the derby basically. You know, it's a catch 22.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you got to perform. Because if you don't perform that day, there's going to be plenty of people that are coming at you, right? And you also want to be the good guy that shakes everybody's hand and all that stuff. But you're there. You are there to perform. That's going to be a fine line too. I When I went over to Dead Man, I experienced a little bit of that, with just anytime you went somewhere, I'm sure you're the same way. People are talking to you. You try to be just, you try to be so nice, but I got people working on my car and they're getting mad at me that I'm not there. And, we had this conversation with my buddies, but yeah, I mean, you got to be back at your car because you got to perform, man.
I think like trying to balance everything is the hardest part because if you try to go fully on it, then you're not going to be able to win the Derby. Like I think that was part of my problem at Deadman was my brain was not clear and it was not focused, and that's why I had terrible luck in the feature because I believe that luck is it's you can control your luck to a certain amount of point, and I just wasn't focused and wasn't like in the zone enough to be able to do that.
Yes, you can certainly have outside influences in your head, and yeah, if you're not in that moment, there may have been let's say there was 15 cars on the track, 10 people were in the moment, and you weren't. You don't have a chance that day, and you're right, man. You got to mentally prepare yourself for that.
I think talking to Tony Burkhart last night, I think he basically said it the best. Is like when I asked him, I was like, "So how do you do it? Like, how do you like mentally? How do you go through Blizzard Bash? Because like it seems like an insane amount of work, time, just mental drain." And he says, to be honest with you, I just go through it play by play. You know, first we got to get the car over to inspection. Oh, now we got to cut a little bit, not the end of the world. And then he plays it play by play. And I like a dead man. I found that I did not do that at all. That's what I tried to do, but it's just not what I did. I was still like unfocused and so worried, and I just couldn't focus. You know what I mean?
Is he meaning like living in the moment? Like
pretty much just like living in the moment, focus on the moment. Don't you're here, you're not there yet. Just focus here.
it's a hard thing to accomplish, and the fact that you are, at 17 years old, understanding that you need to live in the moment is you're ahead of a lot of people.
Because I mean, I want to win at the end of the day. That's why we're all there. So derbying, I think, is a lot more mental and physical than people realize. Like the mental war going to winning in derby is like it's very untalked about in my opinion.
So I want to elaborate on that just a little bit. I said there was other reasons why the format exists and whatnot. That skill that a driver possesses to take another driver out is also, I think, what we need to showcase the world. There's skill involved in this. It's a very skillful sport, if that makes sense.
I get what you're saying. That
And
makes sense.
avoiding contact, think about it. Avoiding contact, yes, it's defensive skill, but being the last car running and running a normal derby, there's not a whole lot of skill that is involved in that. That's almost like in the UFC, like, hey, if this guy's a really good wrestler, well, okay, yeah, he has great defense in jiu-jitsu, like that's awesome. Most people don't get that. And most people aren't going to get the defensive part of our sport, but they will get, man, he just smoked that guy's tire and it just fell off. That offensive skill set that people possess, being able, Pete says it best, and you've heard him say this, being able to flip the switch on, off. That is an acquired skill set for sure.
I get what you're saying. It's like another thing Pete says is you have to win, like actually win. Like I'm guilty of doing this a lot of times. Is you go out there and you just drive around and you just nobody really remembers that you won the Derby. But like Gage Sumner, for example, this year at Gold Rush, everybody knows he won that B main. Like there's no denying it. He won that B main. He went out there and junked everything, and he won that B main.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Gage's performance is the best of both worlds. That is those guys standing in the middle of the cage and brawling until somebody falls. Like that is, you couldn't write a script better than that. We know that we're not always going to get that, but like UFC knows they're not always going to get that either. That's why the build up to the fights matter. That's why understanding who's going to be at the show. That's why doing what we're going to do at the King with those three drivers is is huge. Those three drivers have never been, that caliber of driver has never been on the track together in that situation where it's win or you go to the consi.
Which I agree completely. I mean, I think when you I think when you put the best competitors together that want to compete, I think it's going to be beautiful. Is what it's going to be. Like I know I'm excited for that.
So where are you at? I don't see you on our drivers list yet.
Well, the no pre-ran rule is really kind of kicking me in the behind at the moment.
You better get a car built.
Well, we're trying.
Remember, my job is to give you the biggest stage that we can. Your job is to come perform.
I agree with that. So what is a pre-ran car, Dustin?
Like, what are we allowing there?
Yes.
There are a couple pre-ran cars that are coming back that are like Sean Porsche, where it's got a dent literally in the door. That is a pre-ran car. I think William or let me look at the list here. Mullins have a car or two that they're bringing back that aren't hurt at all. Like there's literally just a couple dents in the doors. Nothing like what you sent me, if that's what you're asking. Nothing like what you sent me. So hey, look, remember all this BS that happens online all the time, okay, with promoters not sticking to shit and all that stuff. Dude, I can't do it. Like,
I get what you're saying.
We have to stick to our rules. I want to see you there as much as anyone, but that's going to be your decision. I can't bend the rules for you.
I get you. I respect that.
And trust me, any pre-ran that shows up there, like it is not, most people are going to look at 3/4 of the car and say it's not pre-ran. You're going to be able to look at like a quarter panel and be like, oh, did it get hit coming off the trailer or like what happened? Because it's not a legit pre-ran.
I get what you're saying. That makes sense.
And keep in mind, I've looked at these cars already. I have not looked at that car that you want to bring. I have no idea what it is.
I get you. That makes sense.
Just a little fun back and forth there. But I want you there as much as anyone, but I can't. No favors.
Understandable, and I want to be mad, but I can't do anything except respect that. Because a lot of people would just try to bend the rules and say you can't, but I mean, I have to respect it.
Well, a lot of people have, and that's why we're in the situation that we're in. When these guys say that promoters bend rules, and they absolutely do, 100%. It's happened a million times, and like that's that's the things that happen, and we're not doing it. Like we're not going down that road. So
I get what you're saying. That makes sense.
Pete says, there will be, it's fresh cars 100%. Okay. Like these cars are not pre-ran. You can't even, Sean Porter's car is not a pre-ran car. It's not, I mean, you can look at the video. It looks no different.
I get what you're saying.
Couple other things, man. I had some questions for you.
All right.
So, on that note, there's been a lot of checks written to old Iceman here, and what is your bucket list item?
What do you mean bucket list item?
Like what's next? What are you looking to accomplish?
After I went out to Blizzard Bash this year, I can say that is for sure on there. Definitely wouldn't like going to national team side. But I'd like to run the King, maybe even win the King if it gets down to it. But no matter what I want, I guess the big goal is I want to win one of the biggest events there possibly is.
So like 50,000?
50,000 maybe.
Hey, hold on just a second. Keep these guys busy. We're potty training here, so keep going to the bathroom back and forth with my little boy.
I get you. Let's see. What can we talk about here? I'm going to grab my phone and check the live chat here. Hope everybody's having a good night. Came in from TikTok. Let's go live here. See what the comments are saying. I can't see anything. Let's see. The war room. There we are. Let's read the comments. Oh, it's me. I sure am cute, aren't I, you guys? Ryder's favorite driver. Dude, I can't wait to see Ryder in a car. That's going to be awesome. Let's see here. What else we
got? All right, I'm back.
Okay.
What we got going on? Anything in the chat that you find?
Ryder from Crashing for Kids Cancer says I'm his role model, which it's amazing.
Heck, you're my role model. I want to, dude. I think there's without saying it, I think there's a lot of people that are going to be jealous of the time that you're growing up in. I'm serious. It's you're going to be that first guy, man. It's if not you, then somebody like you is going to be, your age.
I hope so, because you say that, but at the same time though, I'm listening back to all these guys tell all these stories back in the day, and I'm like, I wish I grew up back up then when a wagon was $75. I would kill to buy that, but it is what it is. This is the time period we're in, and can't really change that. You
got a face for TV, brother, and you're going to be doing that here. And by the way, you got a fan here with this Gage. He just keeps. Do you know who Gage is?
I've seen the name before. Let's see.
Gage.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Gage. If you don't like the sandbagging, are you familiar with our format and why it exists? Because I've never seen you at one of our shows. So. He doesn't, a lot of people, they'll complain about one thing, but they don't actually do anything on the other side. So I don't know if he's one of them. I'm not accusing him of that, but it's just funny when people say that. Oh, I don't like sandbagging, but I also don't like any solutions to fix sandbagging.
I know exactly what you're saying. I hate sandbagging too. I think it's the worst thing to ever be invented. I think whoever's sandbagging is a terrible person. They need to be banned from all derbying. It's the worst thing ever.
It's not fun. It's not fun to sandbag in a car.
What are you talking about? It's a blast.
You think it's fun?
Dude,
really?
I don't think it's fun. I think it's enjoyable. I think it's I think it's just a fun thing to do. And you're out there. You're paying attention. And if you got a little bit of time, you can just go there, maybe eat a sandwich during the Derby. I've done that before. Drink a little bit of water here and there. Just stay hydrated, stay healthy,
I have no fun sandbagging. I think it's awful. The only reason why I would do it is to win the Derby. I mean, that's just the reality.
I get what you're saying.
If that's what the Derby asks for, all right, I'll be there.
I suppose my problem is I kind of have a hard time doing both of them, because I've said this the other day, but I derby like most people would go to the bar, I'm there, I'm enjoying it, I'm having a fun time, but if the haymaker comes and it's time to throw down, then I will throw down. But the problem is nobody ever cracks the bottle over the head, and when they do, they basically knock me out right away.
Scotty, I want to see you get it on with somebody. I want to see you get it on and I'm waiting for that moment, because you're going to have that moment where you make a statement of somebody. Hopefully it's not me out there someday. Don't make a statement of me, but no, I'm joking. But you're going to have that moment, and I really am looking forward to that moment.
Well, the problem is nobody believes me when I say this, but every time it happens, nobody's there. It's at some Hodunk County fair nobody's ever heard of. Nobody's there with a video camera, and it's just me, and everybody doesn't believe me.
Why are you even running these shows, though?
I used to say for the money, since it was easy money, but it's I don't even know at this point, because that's what makes running all them Hodunk County fairs. It used to be fun, but it's just it got to the point now where it's just not. you know, which sucks. But I mean, when you have to go through hell just to get on the track, not even on the track is the problems. Well, sometimes it is. Just when the entire experience isn't fun and it leaves me wondering why am I doing this? This is stupid. That's when I have the most problems with it and when I hate it. That's the only time I hate Demolition Derby is when I have to like convince myself to keep doing it.
So that goes back to the point earlier that we talked about when people say, "Hey, look, all I want is a fair inspection," but then they go run their county fair. The least fair inspection you're ever going to get
Oh, for
is at a
sure.
county fair because there is no time to inspect cars. So like when they say that, it's like, no, I call BS there. Just like when you go to those shows, dude, this is fly by night stuff. A lot of these shows, people haven't even looked at the rules. They don't even know their own rules. You've been through all this.
No, all the time.
You definitely didn't go there because of a fair inspection.
No, you went there because you wanted the Derby. Is why you really go there.
Yeah, you wanted to derby. You wanted to hit something,
Which I like when it comes to run a lot of them county fairs. Like I guess one of the reasons why I was doing it because like you hear all those stories from like talking to guys like Toby and Ziz and all them types of guys. Like we went down to this one fair and like these crazy stories, and you go there to have these stories, and it's just like it's just sucks is what it is.
You need to keep doing what you're doing. The list you pulled together this week is as good a list as I've seen in a week. Pete, Pete, I will play the game that is allowed to be played just like anybody else when I'm running a derby. That is 100% facts.
Oh, that's funny.
But that's also why we're not letting you show up 10 minutes before the show.
Woo!
So, anyways, I was talking about the list that you have on the podcast. We want to hear those stories. I have those names that you named. Hopefully, at some point, I don't know the hurdle that needs to be jumped in order to get those types of people on podcasts to talk. But that would do a monumental. It would be a monumental step in building our sport if we could get guys like that to talk. And they're icons of the sport. Hate them, love them, this and that. Like we all want to hear their stories,
Oh,
and
for sure.
they don't come on these types of things frequently enough.
I think one of the problems is like a lot of them guys. They're just I don't know if it's afraid or they're worried about like what's gonna happen. Because a lot of the guys like I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm surprised Santel like accepted the invite to come on because a lot of them guys like that, which I was warned about this before I started doing this, is that they try to keep everything secretive. You know what I mean? And which it's good for a lot of people, but like you said, in order for the sport to grow and do all this type of stuff, like a few of the secrets are going to have to come out of that. Not all of them. Like when I have Don on, like I don't plan on diving deep into his builds and all that stuff. No, because like no right-minded derby driver is going to start talking about stuff like that at his level, especially. When I get Don on, it's probably going to be about the point series. It's going to be about like old time stories, like how you got in the derby and like all this stuff that like nobody really knows. A lot of people want to learn the history. They don't really care about like the secrets and stuff. They want to learn the history. They want to learn stuff that they don't know. Like when I had Burkhardt on last night, I didn't like. I think so. For the past three guests, I really didn't know any of them. Like I didn't talking to Tony Burkhardt last night. That was the first time I ever talked to the guy, and it's just getting that raw like live just feeling from the live is I think that's one of the most important, one of the only real ways to do it. Because a lot of like almost every other derby podcast out there is just like they have a guy on after a big win. They just talk about the win and that's about it. Which that's cool. A lot of people want to learn about that, talk about that. But like to truly gain the guy's trust and gain their confidence, you have to talk about like their history. Like let them feel comfortable. Because I think if you can get that group of guys and that narrative of guys to start feeling comfortable about this stuff, knowing that what they're going to say is not going to cause problems, it's not going to basically hinder them in any way, I think that's the key to helping this stuff progress.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if we can't get the guys in our sport to push our sport, how are we ever going to sell our sport to the outside world? I mean, we have to do that. And the authenticity, I mean, I think this interview is pretty damn authentic.
Oh, for
And
sure.
we're not trying to cookie cut anything. We've talked about subjects that probably people wouldn't talk about. We've said things that probably people wouldn't say publicly in the past, but like you have to keep nudging, pushing the envelope and saying it's okay. It's okay to be real. I don't know if you listen to Rogan, but
Oh, a few
it's
times.
depending on what episode it is, it could be mother F this, mother F that. Like they're just having fun. They're just being dudes and just kicking it. And dude, that's what people want. They want to hear that.
Wouldn't it be crazy in a magical world that I had Brady Allen here and Devin Allen here, and we were live right there?
And they sold those T-shirts. I'm gonna get them to sell them T-shirts.
And the link was right there. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, here's the link. But yeah, that would be cool. Honestly, what I would like is you guys don't. I don't think it'd be any fun if you guys came on here and were friends. I can tell you that. It would be cool if you guys were on different podcasts and Scotty's, like you said tonight, hey, I'll run against anyone. Then they came on they've been on my podcast before. So they'll come on podcast. And they came on and said, look, Scotty can't beat us. Okay. Like if they said something like that, man, I'll be like there with just gasoline, just saying, hey, I am fueling this fire 110%.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. Me versus one of the Allens, King of Ohio, 2024. Be there.
I wish we're doing something like that with a superstar matchup this year at the King to kind of be the headliner, and maybe that's what that's what this progresses into, a headliner type event.
Yeah, I did not think this live was going to turn into me calling out the Allens, but it is what it is. I don't think they like me as it is. Let's derby it out. It's derbying at the end of the day.
Look, I know them well enough. They're not guys that are going to listen to this and be like, I'm going to literally kill Freebie. They're gonna want to beat you just because they're competitors. They're going to understand what is going on here. I bet you can't beat two of them though.
Yeah, I can name 1,000 people that have gotten junked in that same exact scenario.
Yeah, dude. Hey, those guys right there, I'm telling you right now, they don't get enough respect for what they've done.
Here's my entire thinking with the Allens. At first, I didn't like him because him and his brother the brothers, well, I don't really know which one it is, Brady and Allen, they go around and they just team on everybody. And like in my eyes, that wasn't derbying. My version of derbying is heads up. If I beat you, I beat you. If you beat me, you beat me. But I guess that's kind of how the rest of the entire derby scene is. But I have to give the guys credit. They run. I think when it comes down to duo teams, I think those two might be two of the strongest there is in the entire sport. And they're not afraid to travel, which I have to respect and admire that. Like when they showed up to Deadman, I was kind of surprised in a way. Like they're not opposed to going out there and traveling and going to the Bash, going to the Deadman, going to the King, going to all these shows where like they're put on the biggest stage, and I have to respect that, But when it comes down to getting it on with them, I mean, if we get it on, we get it on. The one that says he doesn't like me, let's get it on. Because, like, the thing that I hate the most about derbying that I've seen just skyrocket tremendously is everybody wants to take things off of the track. If you don't like Dustin, if I didn't like you and you didn't like me, there's only one way to solve it. And it's not 1,000 Facebook posts and 1,000 words talked behind each other's back. It's on the track. If you beat me, you beat me. I could care less. But if it's the other way around, that's cool too. It's just a matter of the competition because like at the end of the day, the closest sport to demolition derby is like fighting. It's like the UFC. Those guys, I think it might be all staged, it might not be, but they say they hate each other the entire time. After the fight, it's all respect, and that's what I wish demolition derby was around here.
I think it can become that, and we've got to have leaders to push it that forward. Hey, and by the way, you can beat two of them. I'm sure that they are not too thrilled about the way the King went down last year, but JT did, and
The JT Hildebrand, he's the
and I'm
man.
telling you right now, that rivalry right there, the Hildebrand Allen rivalry, goes back like 20, 30 years. And that was an emotional time for both of them.
I I was amazed to see JT pull that off in a Ford. Power to the Fords, I suppose.
That's the second Ford that's won in 3 years.
Which like I don't know. I think if I were to run King, I'd probably be in a Ford. Same thing for like Blizzard Bash because that's the car that I'm the most comfortable in. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Which and I think for that type of show, when you can make anything hard, Tony Burkhart thinks he can make Pacer hard for that show. You might see me in a Pacer at the King. I doubt it, but you never know.
It would be crazy. I think these rules, a lot of rules that have been written over the years, there's one car that's always had the advantage, and that is a wagon. And these rules have proven through the top 5. If you look at our top 5 or even our top 10, and this is what I wish this is why we do this, so we can go more in depth on these shows and whatnot. If you look at our top 5 and top 10, we have as big a discrepancy as anyone in the country, meaning we've got sedans, wagons, Fords, O3s, 98 02s, Imperials, all in our top 5 in the past 3 years. There's not a show in the entire country that can say the same. So when we tried to get these rules right because, we wanted these cars, we wanted you to be able to build the car that you're comfortable in. And that's what that's what we've done. There's not a show in the entire country which you can bring every style of build to that has proven that they can win the Derby. Does that make sense?
I get what you're saying. Like even cars with bad suspension, like full framers, and sometimes Cadillacs can compete out there on that level. Which, I mean, more power to it. You know what I mean? But it's all I think. Whatever a guy grew up running and is most comfortable in. Like the Cadillac, I don't think I did as good as I could have out there because like I'm not used to a Cadillac. I've only rarely ran Fords and mini cars, so that Cadillac was like the first real old iron I ever ran, and it was a complete different experience.
But you won. You did win that heat.
I did, and I did. I don't know. It was crazy.
Yeah, that was an impressive performance. I mean, you weren't against any slouches there.
Which like even going back to that heat, I think that heat alone was one of the heats that I was kind of like, how do I say this? Like, it was like, I haven't felt that level of excitement from winning a heat in like a very long time because that was one of them heats that I didn't rely on like politics and I didn't rely on anything. Like that was truly me versus the other two guys. And I beat those other two guys. And I think that the confidence and the excitement that gives once you've done it it's like one of the best things I've ever experienced in the show. You know what I mean? Like I think winning that heat gave me the same feeling that I did when I won the bash. It was a huge deal in my eyes.
That's really cool that you say that because that's what we want this to be. We want that heat win. Long story short, I was having a conversation with my dad, and my dad doesn't know anything about Derby, like nothing. Like he's like, dude, I don't know what's going on. He would look at a welder and be like, I don't know what the hell a welder is. So I was having this conversation with him, and I said, "Yeah, there's one problem that we have with the format that I haven't quite figured out, and we only have one winner. Only one person walks away happy." And Dad pointed out, he said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "How many heats do you have?" And I was like, "Well, it depends, on how many we run, with the three or whatever." He's like, "Every group of three, you have a winner, and they need to feel that way." And I was like, "Yeah, you know what? You're right. Like we do, that needs to be a big deal. That is a winner." And we're gonna do some. I think we're gonna try to do some trophies for our heat winners this year to go back in time and take care of those guys because, dude, when you win one of these heats, it does mean something. I mean, you have accomplished something that not a lot of people have.
Which the thing, so that weekend at King of Ohio, I ran the mini car team show and then I ran the King class. I think like it felt great winning the heat, but I almost feel like it hindered me in a way because like when I pulled on that track, I wasn't thinking about derbying. Like I wasn't like I mean I was, but I wasn't completely in the zone. I was kind of just like because that was the biggest stage I've ever been on. So I'm just like kind of like admiring the moment. You know what I mean? I'm like I am actually here right now. Like I said it, and I actually did it. Like admire. I feel like I got caught admiring the moment in that time, which I mean, it is what it is. Can't go back and change the past, but it is what
You
it
know
is.
what that's called?
What?
That's called growth and maturity. You don't have that. The only way you learn that, Scotty, is to experience it. I mean, seriously, it's you learn the most when you fail, or when you thought you had it, and then you're like, man, I just something was off. And when you figure that out, I'll see you in victory lane.
You know, this live has me really contemplating like pushing everything aside this year and building a king.
Um,
Let's see, is Big Freebie in here? Let's see what he thinks about the king car. I mean, we have O3s and stuff like that. We'll just have to get this done already.
you got enough. You got enough help. Somebody can help you throw a car together. A guy like you should. There's plenty of Lil Freebie supporters out there that would help you out, I'm sure.
The craziest part about it is like locally, like I'm disliked by almost everybody within like a 50-mile radius. You know, a lot of people locally, like when we go to our fair, they hate me. Like, and I didn't even win this year, and they still hate me. Like I got blocked from the Facebook page from the fair, which I mean it is what it is, but I think like I'm pretty much isolated. Like there's no I don't like nobody I really talk to lives close to where we live, like there's my dad's friends, but like they're his friends, I have my own set of friends. So like when it comes crunch time, it's me. Like and it's me to the very end.
That'll change. That'll change. You will definitely get some people that come on board to help you out. It'll change over time, but I understand that too. Look, I live in Columbus, Ohio, and I don't have anyone to build with. If I build a car here, people are coming down on the weekends, like, and they're coming from Salina. That's really there's a question that came in here, Steve. Sorry, Steve. I know you commented a couple times. I didn't get to it. And by the way, this guy right here, you want to talk about paving the way and taking criticism? This guy right here has some broad shoulders because he has paved the way. And of course, it's no secret that people like there's times where people haven't been as thrilled with Derby tees as what they want, but this guy puts in the work and he is doing a phenomenal job. So, Steve, you said you were used the term perform several times. What is your definition of performing in this sense? I'm going to assume that you're talking about, I'll just assume that you're talking about performing on the track. Performing on the track means that you're using your skill to calculatedly take out cars in a quick manner. Hence, like the format, that's performing. Um, Being a performer is and understanding that sense of it is what Scotty just did and called out one of the Allens and then go out there and deliver on it. Now, I'm not saying that you actually called them out, but that's becoming a performer. And that type of stuff is what we need for the sport because it sells. If we made that post tomorrow that, little freebie and Allen is getting it on, there would be a lot of people that would pay just for that heat. And, that's what we're talking about with to perform in the moment. I hope that answers your question. What else we got? There's some people chiming in. Pete said they'll build twins. Tony says the triplets. There you go. Now you got the ball rolling.
What are they saying?
They'll build twins.
Oh yeah, I love Zach and Tony to death, but they're quite frankly twins. Zach Godwin and Tony Campbell.
Yeah.
we got in a huge argument like a week ago because Tony and Zach are on the two-door kick. Which, if you like two doors, you like two doors. Me, I like Lincolns. They think Lincolns are terrible. We got in a huge argument, and then, they're running they're running two doors at the bash, and I'm going to look like another sore thumb again, sitting like a monster truck in a Lincoln like we always are. So it is what it is.
Steve, I wanted to elaborate a little bit on what I mean by performer, like a showman. So out at Metal Mayhem last year, there was a perfect example of Bobby Whitaker being a showman. And I'm sure Steve remembers this. He came down to Santel and Jody in the heat, and they were only taking two. Instead of just like bag it out and whatnot, Bob took it into his own hands, and he got aggressive, and he gave the officials an opportunity to give him a mad dog. That's called a showman, understanding what that moment was and what it is, and that was really good for the fans. I'm sure he probably remembers that. So that was just popped into my head here.
Chris, did you see what Chris Smith said?
Yeah, performers get paid to show up, drop entry fees as we have enough money into the builds. Fans come to see drivers as they do singer. Yeah, well, who's going to pay? Who's going to pay the bills? And this I went into this on a couple podcasts in the past. Who a lot of people talk about it, Scotty, right? I put everything that we've talked about, that me personally and Triple D's talked about, we've put into fruition. So this particular instance, we gave in the first King of Ohio, we went around and we traveled the entire state of Ohio for 2 years and gave out $20,000 in free T-shirts. And then with
2021,
you're wearing one, right? So not only did we not charge entry fees for the show, we gave out $20,000 in free T-shirts. And I don't, that's money just doesn't grow on trees. So this was an investment, right? With travel expenses and paying people, I imagine that we probably had $30,000 out before we even put on a show that guaranteed $50,000 over $50,000 purse, okay, with zero entry fee. And I'm going to tell you, there wasn't anyone that showed up to it. Nobody showed up. So I get the theory of, hey, that's if performers get paid to show up, drop entry fees, all that stuff. I did it, and it cost me a lot of money. Okay? I don't think we're there yet. We are certainly not there yet.
Kinman said entry fees is pennies compared to what they spend on the build, and it pretty much is. Like even any build, to be honest with you, even our bash team cars, the entry fee is maybe just the fuel in the car. You know what I mean?
A lot of people had a lot to say about our entry fee for $50,000 and being $800 and this and that. Look, this class is going to fill. It's very close to filling. And what that shows me is that $800 didn't mean a thing to these guys that are willing to put it on the line.
Yeah.
And in reality, you got $800 in front tires. You got $800 in a tranny. You got $800 in rear tires. You got not quite $800 in a drive shaft. There's some cheaper drives. Everything cost $800. So why would we not pay $800 to win 50,000 back? So basically, for the first time ever, you're almost guaranteed to win more than you have in your car. You know, like that's the trade-off. Why are we not accepting that? Why did people? You want to talk about hate that you get, Scotty? I put out that $800. It's no secret that $800, everyone can do math. It doesn't cover the purse.
Oh, not
Okay,
at all.
it doesn't even come close to covering the purse. As a matter of fact, I thought it needed to be 1,000, and I was like, okay, what I can realistically do is I can do 800 for these guys. So when you do that, you do the math, and you're putting all this money into the show, right, and all this time, and you do the math, and you say, hey, look, I'm gonna put the biggest payout ever paid out in Demolition Derby, and you put it out, and people all they want to do is just be like, this is ridiculous. I would never run this show. It's like, I know you would never run it. That's why you've never ran it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You want to talk about hate, like that's pretty unnecessary hate, don't you think?
Oh, which people just want to hate no matter what. Ev- like everybody thinks the grass is greener on the other side till it's not. You see it happen thousands of times every year, every Derby season. One guy cusses out a promoter, hates, bashes him all over Facebook, and then a week later he's apologizing because he's like, "I was in the wrong. Everybody else sucks. You're not that bad." You know, like as Derby drivers, we're so temperamental with just the smallest things that we blow things way out of proportion.
Yeah, and fortunately for a lot of us, we have this device in our hands that we can type that up, right? And we can put somebody on blast. Um, Maybe it's unwarranted, maybe it's warranted. They're you can do that in the blink of an eye, and that can really hurt business. I had somebody do that to me last year. It's why I went to inspecting cars, and I just asked for proof. If you're going to make allegations, you got to come up with proof. And long story short, it came down to this. And they said that, cars had 4x4 or 3x3 square tubing from the bottom A arm to the bottom of the frame. And I said, well, which cars had that? Oh, I saw several. I said, hey, hold on just a second. Okay. I said, well, which cars had that? And they happened to be O3s. O3s were allowed that. No other cars were, but O3s were allowed that, and it's like, you didn't read the rules and you put me on blast, and there wasn't any public apology.
Oh,
You went public with it, you put me on blast, but there was no public apology afterwards. It really hurts business, because
oh,
in
for sure.
reality, I mean, that post got out to thousands of people, and that might be what people think of our show. This is exactly why I stepped in the inspection line. If anyone says anything like that, I'm either going to say, all right, if prove it, and if we miss something, we're going to say, man, I don't know how we missed that, or we're going to say, this is not legit. What you're saying is it's not validated.
I get what you're saying. Which they're gonna cry no matter what you do.
We don't have a lot of crying at our show. There's unless it happens like behind our back or something. I don't. Did you feel that there was a lot of that?
I mean, I didn't think so. I didn't see any, at least. Gage Sumner said, well, I think one of the most true quotes I've ever seen put on a sticker is, "You'll never be criticized by someone doing more, only doing less," which is completely true.
It may be one of the truest things I've ever heard too. Like, it's so true. Anytime you get criticized, you're just like, you know. I mean, it's no different than the free entry thing, right? Like, it's great to have an opinion, and people are allowed to have opinions. But we've done it, and it didn't work. Guys what happened is guys did not appreciate free entry fees. They didn't care. That was the reality. Um, and I mean, right? Am I wrong?
I mean, you're 100% right.
I believe we're the only derby, the only big derby to ever try it, and it didn't work out at all.
Which, I mean, I get you. Which, like, I think it will work out because, like, if give me a free entry fee, I'll be at the King of Ohio.
Yeah, we're not giving away free $800 entry fees. Can't do that. Way too much money on the line.
Man, I hate Triple D. It's
Hey, one thing we do want to do as you guys see, there's maybe this isn't the right time to talk about this, but whatever. When drivers start helping sell the show, like Freebie, when's the last time? Think about last year. Did you ever share a King of Ohio post?
I believe I did. I could be wrong. I believe I did.
Let's just say that you didn't. Okay, you probably did because you're pretty good on that. Okay, but when drivers start to help promote the show and understand that if the show's bigger and the fans are there, it's going to ultimately affect their pockets. Then we could probably start doing something like that. Like we have to understand the bigger picture here. It can't be like, well, look at the stands. Dustin's just getting rich this weekend. Like, dude, Dustin has given back every single dime plus a lot of money, right? Up until this point. So imagine when we start making money, what we're going to give then. Imagine the stage that we can put you on then when there is 5,000 people in the stands. The funniest comment that I hear is like, yeah, well, there was no one even there. It's like, well, then help me. Help me get people there. Plenty of Derby people. I mean, we've invested everything in it. Invest in us. I'm investing in you.
I get what you're saying. Which, I mean, yeah, you're right.
So anyways, what I'm saying though is we are going to create some type of affiliate link so what will happen, and I guess people are going to copy it anyways. So it is what it is. We're going to do it. What will happen is if, let's say Scotty's got a fan club there. All right. And you sign up, you pay the $800 entry fee. Well, we're going to give you like an affiliate link, and there's going to be some other requirements with this that happen that are going to be trackable and whatnot. But what's going to happen is any of your fans that are coming there, you're basically going to get a percentage back off their general admission. So, like, if you go out and sell 100 tickets for us for the King of Ohio, you've more than paid for your entry. You don't have an entry anymore. We know that Little Freebie is what we call a needle mover. He moves the needle. He's doing his job, and then all of a sudden, you're getting free entries. Now, will guys put in work to do that? Some of them will, some of them won't. All we can do is offer it and see how it goes.
I agree with you. I mean, I think there's a certain group that will, but then there's a certain group that like to play off the, well, like, we're just going to show up and surprise everybody.
We can't have that. We can't have. We're trying to sell. There's too much money on the line. We're trying to sell entertainment. My job is to sell you guys. If Scotty and Pete and Kidman and JT are superstars, guess who wins? The sport wins. The sport absolutely wins. My job is to only provide a venue and a stage for that to happen.
I get what you're saying, and I completely agree,
So yeah, I mean those those paid entries and stuff, man, they're coming. You guys will get there, and then sponsorship's going to come after that. But But look, the devil in the room is that, or the secret, or whatever, the hush hush thing that nobody wants to talk about, is it all comes down to money. We got to be able to sell the sport, bring in more money, so that way we can reinvest it into getting you guys sponsors, into opening things up, which ultimately comes down to you guys competing and, being on that stage.
I get what you're saying, which I completely agree. It makes a lot of sense. Like if if well, I guess that is like the end goal to us being able to get paid, is by basically promoting everything. It can't happen without us. Everybody wants the free entry fee, but if you're not doing anything to deserve the free entry fee, then what does it matter?
Imagine how many people will be at the King this year if 300 drivers share our post. I mean, it's a home run overnight. One of the things that you've said at the King is it was fun to win, but the atmosphere wasn't there yet. And look, dude, I can't deny that. I can't put cardboard people in the stands. We had almost 2,000 people there last year come through the gate. And sorry if you guys are hearing just a little bit of crying. Can you hear that, my boy?
Oh, a little bit. It'll be fine. He must just be thinking about the King of Ohio right now. Just like getting excited about it.
I gotta go get him. Just hold on a second. I can't let him cry out there.
Okay, let's read the comments here. Gonna hype up the shows. Use code Iceman so I can get a free entry fee. Woo! Oh, I'm such an idiot. Let's see here. Let's see. Surprising everyone. Well, got JT Hildebrand in the house, the current king. Where is the king located at? Lima, Ohio, I believe. Dude, we're gonna have the greatest week of lives ever. This is off to a great start. We're gonna have to get Buckman on one of these days. I think for next week, you guys, for those of you that are watching and follow the show, I think next week is going to be either more social media figures, or I'm going to try to do a week of like promoters. Will it work? Maybe. Will it not work? Maybe. You never know. But I think it is what it is. We'll see how it goes.
Did I miss anything?
Oh, nothing important.
So, yeah, I mean, just getting into that a little bit more. I mean, guys, you guys are the key to everything. You guys are the ones that either row the boat or help the boat sink. I mean, really, that's what it comes down to. I mean, that's it. And I hope, I actually, it's coming to fruition. Look, we've sold out the rear-wheel drive class. The front-wheel drive stock class is almost sold out. The King class is going to sell out. The throwback class, I believe, will sell out. We're bringing Tori on for that. It's coming to fruition. It's happening.
Pete has that's dedication at its finest, I saw.
What is that, inside joke or something? I missed something.
I think the joke is the kid's crying because he doesn't get a Christmas gift because you got to put all the money into the King of Ohio.
Oh, that's what that is about? No, you know what he's crying about is Spider-Man turned off. Okay,
so dude, I would be too. I love
Spider-Man. My phone out there, and it was a dilemma. Look, if you don't got Spider-Man and fruit snacks at 9:30 at night, the world is falling apart.
Oh, that's great. Actually, Steven works the format.
See this though right here. There is no reason that guys like you and Steven, who have the reputation in the Derby world, shouldn't be able to make a post and say, "Hey, I'm going to King of Ohio this weekend. Who can help me in the pits?" I'm telling you, when 10 years ago, when I didn't really know anyone in the Derby world and no one knew me, I would have begged to help somebody in the pits. There's people out there that will help you. I'm telling you.
I get you. But when it comes to stuff like that, is like that. I feel like me personally, but I don't know if a lot of guys are like this, is I don't like any help. I like my dad, maybe one or two guys, but other than that, if it's it's this may come out weird, but like working on the car, like getting it ready for the next round, that's like my way of like getting in tuned with the car. You know what I mean? Because like then it's not like I know what I know what I have when I do that. You know, which like, and I think even so, what was this exactly? So the thought just left my head. I don't know what it was. It was something along the lines that related to like No Mercy team show this year when so they're not having the show anymore because basically we won the show and not everybody put in as much effort as we did at the end of the day is kind of the best way to say it. Which that's kind of one of the things that I hate about like derbying is that it almost in a way it rewards the people that don't put in the effort and just cry.
Yeah, we've got it. Well, that's part of appreciate it, Pete. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff with Pete, by the way. So I'm sure you'll see a lot out of that camp. So, but that's where we're in this weird transition that I don't know if anyone quite understands. I certainly don't know if I understand it. That transition of competition and where people want to compete, and we're not making a living doing this yet, but we're almost there. But if you do make a living doing it, you're the bad guy. It's such a weird thing. But it look, I guess we got to go through it. Every sports went through it. And we've got to get big time sponsorship money in here as quick as we can. The only way to do this is to get organized. It's the only way. And that starts with you guys. It starts with you guys and moving one direction and supporting one a direction.
I get what you're saying, and even like going back to the crew stuff, like it all just depends on like the build. Like for this year at King, I barely worked on my King car at all. It was all Zach and Tony because I had to deal with the compact car. And I think when the more money gets brought to the sport, it's going to do one of two things. It's either going to help it out a lot, or it's going to be the worst thing to ever happen to the sport. I think the way it's at now is it's a lot easier to spot greed because there's not that much money in it when it comes to the promoting side of it. But the problem is I think if like let's say somebody donates $1 million to a show, that's when I think the greed is going to really play a huge effect in everything, which it may be the best thing to happen to the Derby world, but it may be the worst thing to ever happen to the Derby world.
What do you mean by that? Best thing and worst thing. What are like some scenarios that you think will arise?
So the reason anybody does anything is for a reason. There's always a reason to something. And I think that there's going to be a lot of people that like they want to see the sport go in the positive direction, not for themselves. But then I think you're going to have a lot of selfish people and a lot of greed that is just going to haunt everything and hold it all back in a way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, certainly. Okay.
Because not a lot of people are like you, Dustin. Not a lot of people are going to throw everything they have at something, praying it works. But when it does work, a lot of people are going to try to take advantage of it. It's just like a nice inspector. Everybody tries to take advantage of a nice inspector. It's just how it happens. And then people wonder why inspectors are not nice people. Because if they're nice, then they get taken advantage of.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. That's why I think that you got to have the structure in place, though. Like there's so many things, man, that get thrown around in the sport. And I could comment on 100 posts a day and say, what are you talking about? Like this unified rules stuff. Do people not understand that no one thinks that unified rules shouldn't be a thing? But what they don't understand, man, is like that's halfway up the pyramid. You have to build the foundation first. So that way there's money there to hire full-time inspectors to go around to these shows. Like there's steps to this, guys. You're talking about a business. There's enough people in the Derby world that run businesses that understand how it works. I don't know how the hell we can't figure this out. Like there's a foundation first. You don't just I can't just go to the on Shark Tank and say, "Hey, I got this great idea." What they do on Shark Tank is they say, "Hey, where's the proof? Where's the money? Where's the income? Where's your organization? Do you have members to this organization?" Anytime that you're trying to get that $1 million sponsorship or something, they're going to want something in return. It's an investment both ways. I recently was in a conversation with a bunch of different people, but Boxo Tools was one. And Boxo Tools, you have to understand these guys' business, the way they run their business. So, and I said this in another podcast, and I sorry if people are listening to this twice, but Boxo Tools runs their business. Their markup on their tools is a little higher. Okay. So you're going to pay a little more, but it's a good product. But what they do is they go out and support the little guy. Harbor Freight, for example, their business model is to sell the cheapest tools possible. They don't sponsor anything as a result because there isn't a budget there for it. Snap-on tools, their business model is to sell to the mechanic down the street, which, there's a mechanic every 4 blocks in the city. So they just keep stop and stop. Their business model isn't to go after the derby guys. So when we talk about getting investments in the sport, Boxo Tools, for example, they're going to want an investment from us in order to invest in us. And when we're capable of showing them that, Scotty, the sky is the limit. They'll just start writing checks. But how do we get 100 people to order a $5 thing from Boxo Tools tomorrow? Because they won't do it, currently in the state. And they may not do it because it's like, I'm not naive enough to think that they won't do it because it's me. I know that I don't carry that great of influence, so I understand that. But like, dude, that's why you guys have to become superstars. So that way you guys can become influential. So if you share Boxo Tools and say, "Hey, look, Boxo Tools is going to support me for the year," you have enough influence in the derby world to get that partnership done. Does that make sense? I mean,
yeah, but like going back to the root why I don't like, I think a unified rule set would be amazing, but I truly do not believe it will never happen because derby drivers will never agree on anything. Nobody can, like, and it's not just when it comes to the promoter sides; it's the driver's side. Nobody will be able to come to a fair exchange on everything, and it's even like the divide between derby people is insanity. Like even in the production industry, like I mentioned this last night when I went on live with Derby Nation at Blizzard Bash, I got like basically banned from another live company, which like the fact that that's even a thing just blows my mind. Because if we're not at a point in our sport yet where I can't go on live, not even like just live, just my presence to support more than one person is stupid. It's asinine. How are we supposed to become unified in any way if we can't even go on live with more than one people? How?
So what happened here? You were at Blizzard Bash and you went live?
Well, so I was Steve Buckman and had me on Derby Nation at Blizzard Bash. And doing that basically got me kicked off of banned from any chance of ever being on another promotion company. Well, not promotion company, live stream company.
All right, hold on. Somebody's asking about the Boxo Tools link. I'm going to post the link because Steve says, "Hey, create a discount code or whatever." Look, I already did that. So I'll post the link, and we already worked all that out, Steve. So anyone that wants to purchase can go through that link. So, all right. Let me post this link real quick so I don't get distracted again. I want to listen to that again. Sorry to be a pain. I'm going to get on here. So I've worked out this deal with him. I was in a meeting, which I've been in several meetings with guys that are movers and shakers from the biggest sponsors that you can possibly come up with. You name them, I've been in there with the people that make decisions, and this is what they're telling me. So you can only go based on what they're telling you. Like, this is how you do it. Like Monster Energy, for example. I'll tell you Monster Energy's pitch, because I've been in a meeting with the CFO of Monster Energy. And he's like, look, we will not sponsor anyone unless you're a winner. Okay. And then at that point, like, Monster Energy only goes after winners. If you win, you have a chance to get a sponsorship. But then the next question is, winner of what organization? Shit, we don't have an organization. So that's the next question. Oh, we don't have well, we have like thousands of derbies, and there's like hundreds of promoters. And okay, well, what's your reach? Oh, I have one derby. How many people are there? Well, let's call it a stretch, and let's say 2,500. Yeah, buddy, 2,500 ain't doing nothing for us. Okay. Like, right. So you got to have that organization. Like, there's levels to this. And,
I hope we can get to that point. I would love to have Monster Energy down the side of a Crown Vic. I think that'd be amazing.
There was something else. Oh, go back to your story. So, you were talking about you got banned from.
So basically, the way everything is behind the scenes is it's you either pick one side or the other. And apparently, without knowing it, I picked one side, and now the other side is gone, which sucks, but it is what it is.
So what do you mean by that? Like, at Blizzard Bash, Derby Tees?
Yeah, when I was with Steve Buckman up there basically announcing the Derby, which was one of the coolest things I've ever done in my life.
So you're not allowed, like, they frowned upon you going live during the event?
Well, I didn't. Basically, it was the fact that I was with them, which they kind of, I don't really know. It's a really stupid situation, in my opinion. But it is what it is.
Okay, well, that's the way I understood it. All right, Scotty, I'm not trying to teach you a lesson or anything, okay? But I want you to understand this. So, Derby Tees, right? Derby Nation. 15 years ago, you couldn't watch live derbies. Those guys, specifically Mark Klein and his partners or whatever, invested a lot of money, and for years probably lost a lot of money investing in the derby world to provide us this product. When somebody goes live, it costs them money, right? And like, everyone's quick to point out, well, you're making enough money, this and that. Yeah, but we have to support our own. We can't be going live at these events. What it comes down to is we don't know the value of our product, if that makes sense. You got to know the value of our product. So our product is entertaining to derby guys. Well, derby guys will pay for that. And with derby guys paying for that, in return, those guys can provide a better product. So I know a lot of people, you may not even agree with this, and a lot of people.
Yeah, but I think you kind of misunderstood how I said this. Buckman kind of basically.
Oh, okay. Here, I went into a rabbit hole. Well,
I get what you're saying, though. I understand that completely.
Allowed. Oh, another derby, another live stream. Oh, okay. Well, sorry, Steve. I was going to bat for you there.
Which I completely get that. You know what I mean? I completely agree with that. You know, I mean, they're there to basically provide a product to help the show grow, which I don't think going Facebook Live from the stands is acceptable, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and we're in this weird spot, man, where, like, if Klein and those guys, like, come down with the hammer and start really, like, enforcing that, people are going to start rebelling, and we don't want that, you know. But, like, we got to know our value, you know. I get it. So I mistook that. Sorry to go down.
You're all good. You're all good.
Steve, tell Mark I will. I'll need my paycheck next week for that, though.
Like, I was kind of just using that as an example to show the divide between everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
which is what it is. Can't change people, I suppose.
No, man, but it's changing. Look, in all reality, things are progressing quicker, and there's opportunities that you are going. Like I said this earlier, that you are going to have that guys starting today that other people never had. And dude, it is changing, and it's changing because of these conversations and people talking more. Whether they tuned in tonight or the conversations happening in the garage, it's changing, man, and it's really cool to see.
I get what you're saying, which I think it's the greatest part about the whole social media and the Derby thing in general is that it just grows everything in one direction.
Organization, man.
Which we can only hope. I would
No,
love to live in a world where I wake up and I'm like the Dale Earnhardt of Demolition Derby on a professional level. I think that'd be the greatest thing ever.
um, I've always, here's the thing with promoting. If Let me ask you a question. If tomorrow I said, "Hey Scott, if you start a demolition derby promotion, but you have to give up on that dream of ever becoming Dale Earnhardt and you can't run again, would you?" But everyone else gets to experience it.
Yeah, that's a good question. Hmm. Hmm. I mean, I'd like to say that I would, but I truly don't know if I would. I mean, like, I don't know. Hmm. I don't really know if that's a good question. I don't know if I could be able to just step back and just, well, I don't know. Where were you going with this? Like,
I'm just throwing a hypothetical out there.
hmm. So that's pretty much what you did. Is you instead of trying to be the Dale Earnhardt, you decided to be the basically guy that makes Dale Earnhardt a thing.
I don't know where I'm at right now. Um, I'm more than willing to never get in a derby car again if it means we have an organized sport. But I can tell you that the reason why I continue to get in derby cars is because you can move the needle quicker as a driver. And I know that I can win these big shows and this and that than you can as a promoter. With promoter comes a lot of hate. With winning big shows comes more respect. So when I started this, I knew that I didn't have the name. I didn't have the respect. There was a lot of things that I didn't have. And I knew that was going to be a tough road, but also no one else was doing it. So, yeah, I'll never step in a car again. If you become the next Dale Earnhardt, and that's a guaranteed fact, or if it's Sickles, or if it's Pete Hansen, or if it's Kinman, or whoever it is, I don't care. I don't care who it is. I don't care. But if somebody becomes that, I'll never step foot in a car again.
I get you. What?
Because, and here's why though, because it's not just you. Because if you become Dale Earnhardt, we're going to have a Mark Martin. We're going to have a Jeff Gordon. We're going to have a Jimmy Johnson. We're going to have a Sterling Marlin. We're going to have a Rusty Wallace. We're going to have all these things. So when we get this thing right and we organize it, it will affect thousands of families. The way they run their lives, the financial backing that they have to do this. NASCAR's done it. These guys were no different than us when they started. And now they all live around a lake, Lake Norman in North Carolina. And they say, "Hey, you want to go to Scotty's house? I'll drive my $300,000 yacht, over to Scotty's house and we'll drink a couple beers and have some fun." They were us. They were us. So yeah, if it means that, I'll never touch a derby car again. Um, But we need more of that. Dude, it can't just be me. There's no way. It cannot be just me. It has to be a group of promoters or a group of people, a group of drivers. Um, it has to be that. It cannot be one person. And I think I take a lot of criticism because a lot of people say, well, um, you just think it's all you, this and that. Like, dude, it can't even be me. Like, it can't. All I'm trying to do is move the needle. That's it.
I get what you're saying, and I think like the thing that I'm not gonna lie. At one time, I thought it was just all like there was great motivated behind you, but the thing that kind of set everything to perspective, and for me at least, was that like a lot of like not a lot of guys be able to take the amount of hits you have financially and like throughout the entire sport trying to promote a derby and still going and keep doing it. That's kind of the main reason why I bought the Cadillac to run the King in the first place, is because like if he's willing to lose everything to make sure this works, I have to support him.
Yeah, I'll write. Maybe, hey, you only get to write a book if it ever works out. Because people are like, man, like you should write a book of all the shit that you go through. I'm like, Dave, a book doesn't sell unless it works out. So there's been a lot of ups and downs.
We're in the notes phase right now. The book comes in a long time. We still got to get the notes down now.
Dude, we might want to think about just like having a super successful first show. You know what I'm saying? Like just where it's just like a banger, where it's like, holy shit, this is the greatest thing ever. We might want to think about that first. We've got to start the organization and get that rolling and put all the pieces to that, together. All those things have to happen first. But look, these aren't dreams. I'm telling you, they're not dreams. Every single day, I work on this every day,
I know what you're saying.
and it's going to happen. And it's not just me. There's other people involved that are working on this every day. You ever thought about what it's like to write or start an organization?
I have not.
It'll make your brain hurt. There are so many steps to it that I don't have any. Hold on just a second.
Oh, you're all good. Here. While he is off, I shall return real quickly. I gotta go.
I'm back. Sorry, guys. I don't want to lose you. Good stuff. And we got a good amount of people on here. I'm sure he's just taking a quick break. So, yeah, man, we're almost there. It's not dreams anymore, man. It really isn't. And Nick Nugent said, do you honestly, Nick, I'll be the first to drive over to your house, man. When this happens, it's going to happen, but it only happens if we come together. That's the difference. It only happens then. And there's just, I will smile ear to ear alongside of you guys. And like they say, everybody can eat at this table, man. This this table is big, man. Everybody has a seat. So come eat with us. Yeah, Sickles. Look, the organization, it's coming. Okay, it's coming. So just hang on tight and hold on, and it's coming.
Okay, I have returned. Old Grandpa needed help with something real quick, but we're back.
So here's another here's another comment. I wish there was a way to find a cheaper way for us to do this. The sport is extremely expensive on both ends. Not only promoter, but the driver and family. It's so hard to build a car after car, even if you don't have all the parts on hand. You always have expenses each ride. That's where the family gets divided. People are upset, and when things break, how do you make it better? Make it where we can run the pole. Look, that is not the fix. Okay. The fix is not to keep beating your head against the wall. The fix is to organize and keep money in the sport so it's not as expensive, right? So when your wife or your family members look at you, they look at you as a true professional because you're bringing money in rather than always taking money from the bank account. You got to look at it just a little bit different. Once you start to bring money in this sport, everyone will look at you as a professional, and it'll be different. But we have to pay it forward in the meantime. And if this is the case for you, don't try to run multiple shows in a year. Don't pull yourself too thin. Only live within your means. If you're not a king class driver, don't do it. Okay? Don't go under financially to do it. Um, live within your means, and we're going to structure that. We're going to structure that hierarchy within this organization, in which we have it now in the king class. You can be the king of front wheel drive. You can be the king of rear wheel drive stock. That's like the lower part of the big cars, but you're still the king of that class. Everybody has there's a national championship in college football. The NFL doesn't come down and say, well, you're just college football. No, everyone celebrates the national champion of college football, right? Because
Yep.
that's the best in that league. We should do the same. And then when you are good enough and you have opportunities to move up to like a king style class, then you get the opportunity to do that. And that's how you progress in the sport.
I completely agree.
So the organization, man, on that note, it hurts my head daily. And there's so many steps to it. I realize now that we are probably I don't know, we're a good ways through. Okay. Laying everything out and exactly structuring everything, how it's going to work. Now, then we got to get buy-in, from drivers and buy-in from promoters and all that stuff. Right. But it is, it's like writing the freaking Constitution of the United States. Like it might sound like goofy, but I could only imagine what it was like to do that. And that's kind of what this is. It is, dude, I'm telling you, man, it freaking hurts my brain to even think about it. But it's happening.
That is like, now that you mentioned that, like I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but like the only thing that you can really relate what's the whole like derby like promoter like standing is like right now is to when they were trying to write the Constitution and trying to unite everybody. That's all the states. That's the only thing this is really like. I don't know anything else that this is like could even be compared to, because nobody can agree on anything except that this needs to happen. Nobody knows how it's going to happen. Nobody understands exactly what needs to happen, but we all know that this is what has to happen.
So what we need is we're going to need a group of people to stand together. And this is what the king has always been about. It has been about it. Think about it, Scotty. It has been about appealing to the people that want to take the sport to the next level. That's it. That's the only thing this show exists. It exists for that hierarchy. If you want to take the show to the next level, then you run the king. Like, that's pure and simple. That's what it is. So with that said, we've got to find the people that are running the show to get the ear of, to say, all right, this is why we need to move this direction. This is why these tough decisions have to be made, because every decision that's made to further the sport isn't necessarily going to be a popular one. I mean,
for sure.
For one, okay, a lot of people are like, oh, cars aren't getting car count, or shows aren't getting car counts and this and that. You know what? When they did get car counts? Can you remember back when a particular promoter was absolutely dominating the derby scene? During COVID, Frankie Guy was absolutely dominating the derby scene. Why was he dominating the derby scene? He was the only promoter. He was the only show. There is a supply and demand problem in Demolition Derby. There's too many shows. That's
For
simple.
sure.
It's
100%.
simple. And people look at it and say, like, oh, you hate county fairs and this and that. No, There needs to be county fairs. There just doesn't need to be 100. How can a county fair sit here and look at us? Okay, every derby or every county fair has a derby, and they say they lose money on it. Scotty, would you do something for the next 40 years if every year you lost more money?
No, and I know that's false because here's why. I think this was our second year camping at our fair, and my mom, she was all. This was the first time at the fair. So mom was all about the fair. So mom went to every single event that the fair board held, and what she realized at the end of the week was that the only event that drew in the crowd, like actually drew in the crowd, where the entire place was packed, was the demolition derby. Which it makes sense. The country music singer doesn't make anything, which we actually found out because one of our friends are on the fair board, is that they use the derby to pay for the rest of the week, for the rest of all the other entertainment things, which I mean makes sense.
Scotty, they'll tell you that. So here's the thing. When I say this, people say that when I said like, hey, we need a better relationship with the county fairs, it means that we need to know our value, know what we bring to the stands. And if next year, okay, let's say we have this organization, Scotty, and what's a county fair by you? A big one.
Well, so it used to be Lorain County Fair, which like county fair wise, that's the biggest one.
Okay, so let's just say Lorain County Fair. How much does it pay?
I think it paid like $3 or $4 this year for the big class.
Well, that's a solid payout. I bet it probably just started paying that.
Yeah, like the past, I think a year or two ago it started.
Makes sense. Wonder who made the noise for that and started pushing that. So when I say these types of things, if, for example, if Lorain County Fair, if we had an organization that said, look, we're not supporting Lorain County Fair this year, okay, until they pay us as Demolition Derby what we deserve. Lorain County Fair is going to say, hey, look, I don't give a shit if you guys don't come. The fans will still show up and we'll pay it. Then there'll still be people that go against us, right, and show up. But they're not going to have a great show. That's year one. Year two, it happens. No, the fans are not going to come back. Some of the fans aren't going to come back, and they're going to have a bad show. Year three, they're going to be in trouble, and they're going to realize that their cash cow, they might want to come to the negotiation board. And look, we're more than happy to negotiate now. But instead of $3 or $4 you're going to pay our derby drivers, it's going to be $10,000. It's going to be $15,000. That's the way it's going to be. And because you're going to put money in our pockets. We can only negotiate that if we come together. That's all I'm saying when it talks about, I mean, I'm probably letting more out of the bag than I should, but that's the reality. If somebody copies it or whatever, it is what it is. They've copied a million things that we've done. So it doesn't matter, but that's where our head should be. Our head should be like, hey, look, if we stick together, I know you want to run your hometown fair. I know it's a big deal. I know it's going to tug at your strings to not run there. But if you can do this for 2 years, you can make a lot of money when you get back there. You know, we can create a healthy relationship. Some of these county fairs, they're not going to go down those 2 years. They're just going to say, you know what? You're right. You got us. What do you need? What do I need? We want to make sure that we have you. We don't need to go down those 2 years. Yeah. Some of them are going to play hardball, but we have to play hardball too.
And I feel like you can even tell for sure, like even in the past, like 4 to 5 years, like the car count for county fairs has went down.
Yeah, it's went down, but there's a scarcity problem in Demolition Derby. The reason why derbies just keep popping up everywhere is because people make money on them. We just don't make any money. The derby community makes no money. There's not an organization that literally takes in a single dime every time there's a county fair. NASCAR, every time there's a NASCAR event, there's X amount that goes back to furthering the sport. NFL game, every Sunday, they make revenue that goes back to furthering the sport, making sure they have TV contracts, making sure they have sponsors, all that stuff. Could you imagine if we just took 10% from the county fair's revenue? You'd have $1 million overnight. What can you do with $1 million? You can do a lot of things with $1 million.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, but again, it requires us to stick together. And are we willing to do that? The toughest test for our sport lies ahead, and it can't be let alone. We have to stand together.
I completely agree. You know, I think so. I don't think I've announced this yet, but I think we'll do it right now. So next week, so this week on my lives, the theme was basically driver interviews.
Oh,
So
hey, time out, real quick. We got into this. I don't want to No, go ahead with your thing. We'll address it after we're done. I'm sorry.
So,
I shouldn't have interrupted.
Oh, you're all good. So this week's theme was driver interviews. Next week, my plan is to try to get 5 promoters on one every day, and I think getting the mind of these promoters out there is, I think, one of the only ways that we're going to get closer to getting all of this together. You know, because what's everything that's said behind closed doors, nobody knows if it's true or a lie. But I think trying to further everything and get closer to everything is like the main way to make anything happen. Because, like, there's not really, I could be wrong, but I don't think there's anybody trying to pick everybody's brain to see where exactly we're at. Not publicly, at least.
I am tuning in next week because I do not believe these promoters are going to tell you what they really think. I'm very curious. I'm not going to say they won't, but I don't think that they're going to come on here and have this conversation and be as candid. I will tune in.
I completely agree. I think it's going to be a lot harder than this week was, but
I'll ask questions during it. You demand, do me a favor, and you demand that they answer what they want the Derby world to become. And how are they going to get there? Not just what they want it to become, because it'll be easy just to say, oh, yeah, I want it to become a professional sport. Well, what are you doing currently as a promoter to make sure that happens? Because in the state of Ohio, we just went 15 years with the highest payout being $10,000. You can't sit here and tell me that somebody else is doing what is necessary to push the sport forward if that's happening. You're not going to convince me of that. But I want to hear it. I guarantee I'll tune in.
Like, because so when I came up with this idea for starting doing these live shows and stuff like this, the goal was to see where we can take everything, where we can progress everything. And maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. But I think the problem is nobody's really comfortable like sharing what they really want to share, because there's not really a direct platform that lets you do that. And my goal with this is to try to get into that somewhat direction with it. And I think that's kind of the reason I didn't do that first, the whole promoter thing first, was because I don't have where it's at right now. The show it doesn't have the validation to like get the big promoters on there. Why would I go on a live with so and so? But I think hopefully at least after I get guys like Pete and Santel on, hopefully that drives the validation of the show to means like this is actually something serious, not just me messing around.
Everybody has their role. You're exactly right. Those guys help validate your show and what you're doing, and that is extremely important to that. So we got some comments in here. This is a good one. So Lenny Lewis says, I try to stay out of these kind of conversations, but honestly, I can't believe that you're standing and sitting there attacking the county fairs the way you just did. Is anything that I said there an attack on county fairs, that we want to create a healthy relationship with them? What was attacking there? That's what I don't understand about this.
When it comes to attacking county fairs, I believe Dustin hasn't really done anything. Because I guarantee my opinion on 90% of county fairs is a lot worse than everybody wants to say. Because I like county fairs, but I honestly despise them at this point. Because every time I went to a county fair last year, it was nothing but problems. The main reason why I spend all the extra money and why I spend all the extra time to be able to go out and compete at the national levels is because you don't have the county fair problems. Like, this is a running joke between me and my dad, which is like, so anytime he start like we get into an argument, I'll tell him to stop with the county fair mentality. It's the mentality of like, this is where we're at. We're never going to do better than this. You're too big for your britches. It's that limiting mentality is what kills it, in my opinion.
Yeah, and like this is something this right here is something that I've fought for going on 4 years now. And when you stand here and you publicly say, I want you guys to make more money, and these are the people that are taking the money from you, and we need to get some of that money back for you guys, and then you get attacked for it. It's just like I don't know where the disconnect is. Wait, I'm sitting here standing up for you guys. Like, no, and nowhere did I say that county fairs need to go broke. Nowhere did I say that they shouldn't have derbies. Nowhere did I say any of that. You know, what I said is we need a healthy relationship with county fairs. And then there was another comment up here with Josh, and he said, but if you take that money away from county fairs, they will all fold. That's not true. Because if we're filling the stands, most county fairs charge no money for the stands. If we're putting on a great product, guess what they do for concerts? They charge for the stands. County fairs, if we do this, will actually make more money now than they used to because they're going to charge for the product. Every year, the county fair stands are full. They just don't charge for it. Wait, we're providing the same entertainment that the concert's providing. We fill the stands. If you charge $10 to get in those stands, guess who's going to be paying it
Like,
for years to come?
I think so. Every time, like 90% of the time, I think the Derby world will never unify. It's always going to stay exactly how it is.
That's not true. It's going to change.
So some of the main parts, well, the main thing that gives me hope through it all is that truck polls are unified. Now, I don't know if you've ever watched a truck poll, but it's cool for like 5 seconds, literally. And then like it's very boring. It's like a baseball. It's like the baseball game of motorsports, in my opinion. So if they can figure out how to unify and they can catch the county fair's attentions, then I think derbying will be able to. But at the same time, though, I mean, when it comes to a lot of these county fairs, like I think if derbying will truly, if unifying derbying together and truly like making county fairs a big deal, will truly bring back the nostalgia of the county fairs. I think that's the only way to do it. Because I went to countless county fairs this year, and like they're dying in a way. Like the stands section is dying. Like even a lot of like the county fairs in general, like I just don't see like the same amount of people there as you usually do. I don't see the 30 person long line at the Stromboli stand anymore. I don't see the 50 person line at the lemonade stand anymore. It's just, I think the county fairs, like, I don't know if it's social media or what it is, but it's all just slowly just dying.
And are you talking about in terms of entertainment? You know, just
well, I'm talking about the county fairs, like in general.
So this may be a lifeline that they need. If their revenue is decreasing and they need that cheaper entertainment, all we got to do is have a great relationship with them. They make money. The Demolition Derby makes money. We're all good. Everybody's good. And if that's the case, you know, another thing that I was thinking about when you were talking, Demolition Derby at these county fairs is inherently dying. Anyways, right? The car count's getting less and less and less, and the reason being is because it's supply and demand. There's just an excess amount of county fairs that have demolition derbies. And if we take the trend, it's all going to die anyway. So what are they going to do when the derby's not there in 20 years? They're going to make ends meet somehow. They're going to find a way to make ends meet somehow. It shouldn't be on the backs of us to make sure that they go another 20 years before they make a different business decision. Does that make sense?
I completely agree with you. But like a lot of them county fair guys, a lot of the people on the fair board, I don't know if they're too old or ignorant to realize anything, because like
no, they don't. They don't want to. I've had these conversations, Scotty. They don't want to. They don't need to. That's the thing. If you're running a business, you're a smart kid, Scotty. If you're running a business and you bring in 50,000 every year, and you pay out 5, and someone says, "Hey, you should pay me 10," you're going to say, "No, I like that $45,000. Why would I do that?" And you're going to say, "Well, I'm not going to do it anymore." Guess what? In the derby world, there's another promoter that will say, "I'll do it. I want to be famous. I'll do it for free." And it's a repeat cycle. My hometown is a perfect example. It just happened there in my hometown. It's people are in line to promote the as it was said online, the Salina County Fair. It's the Mercer County Fair. Okay. And
nobody calls it Mercer County Fair. Everybody calls that Salina.
No, it's called the Mercer County Fair. Anyone that's local knows it's the Mercer County that's what everyone refers to everything as. It's definitely not called Salina County Fair. I can tell you that. It's called Salina, period. But like one promoter fell out. They were doing it super cheap, and they fell out because it wasn't profitable. And 10 more were right there to step in and say, "Dude, I'll do it for free." Well, until we stop that, I mean, and we understand what that relationship is. Look, these right here, though, are tough conversations. They really tug at people's heartstrings. And as you saw, some of the reactions that we got live here, some people are not going to allow that to be a thing. But it has to happen for us to progress the sport.
I completely agree.
Hold on, buddy. Well, Scotty, I know that you wanted to get to bed at 10 o'clock, man. So do you want to wrap it up, or do you want to stay on here? There's still like 86 people on here.
Yeah, we'll stay in here for another 10 minutes. Call it a day. All I'm going to do is get off and go to bed. I think we can handle another half an hour. We're good.
Okay. Look, the only thing we can do is get these conversations started. And the only way you know how people feel is when they tell you. So if people are hating on it and they don't like it, that gives us a chance to explain and say, look, that's not really what that means, So I'm happy for the comments. I'll take the criticism.
I think like the biggest problem that I truly do see like holding everything back is trying to get the egos out of the way, because a lot of people, like, everybody wants this to happen, but like everybody wants to be like the head guy. Everybody wants to be like the big guy, the circus master, the ring master. Everybody wants to be in the center of it. When I don't think that's how it should be. I think it should, like, here's what I believe, and I thought about this like a year ago. So basically, I think that if the only thing that I can relate where the demolition derby sport is at right now is what the colonists were doing back in the 1700s, then maybe we need to form a demolition derby government. Not an actual government, but it's like a government style thing. Something that everybody feels like they have equal representation and everything.
Scotty, you're a brilliant man. Keep preaching. I'm listening. How does it work? Now go through every single step of how it works, how promoters get on board, how drivers become a part of the organization, What's the steps to that? Find out what money needs to be raised. All
Yeah.
that you can figure it out. I know you can.
Well, here's what's going to happen when I say this. There's going to be everybody that says I hate the government, and all the government does is lie and cheat to us, which is, I believe, true.
We can have hate for the government, but we also there's got to be respect there too. I mean, we do live in like one of the greatest. We are talking about forming an organization in a country which we're not getting attacked right now. I mean, without getting into crazy shit, but
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
like we're not worried about our lives going to bed tonight. That's a pretty cool thing.
Oh, for sure. I think one of the main things that has to happen is like we all have to like when everybody comes together, they need to leave the egos at the door. They need to look at the paper, look at the chessboard, and figure out exactly what has to happen. Because the problem is a lot of people that might have to take less of a role, they aren't going to do it. Which I mean, you can't fault them for it, but at the same time, I think the sport itself and the people in it are what is holding it back.
Yeah, I mean but it can happen because there's tons of evidence that it has in all kinds of other aspects of life, from our government to different professional sports. It's happened everywhere. There's so much evidence and there's so much promise here because we're not creating an entire sport. It exists. All we're doing is organizing it. And when I say we, it's like us as the drivers. We are organizing it. There's a phrase that we use for Triple D. It's built by the drivers for the drivers. That's true. It's true. That's why we did this.
Christine Majors said it the best. Everybody wants to be the chief instead of the Indian.
Yeah, the reality is you need a lot of Indians. That's the reality, and nobody wants to take the heat of the chief. Anyways, once that fire gets hot, nobody wants that. So,
which I mean, I think the reason that I think getting guys on like the top level guys together is going to be the easy part. But the problem is how are you going to get Joe Schmo involved so he feels like one day he can be on the same level as like Pete Hansen?
They look up to him. They look up to him, just like I looked up to everyone that was in Salina. I'm sure you had people that you looked up to, your dad's and his friends. They look up to him and they say, I want to be that guy. I want to drive that, that black wagon or that black Ford or sedan. I want to be that guy. That's how you do it.
I agree with that. Let's see.
Somebody said on here, how do we help? Dude, social media is our greatest friend. With one post, you can get out to, if you have 5,000 friends, you get out to about 5%, 5 to 10% of your friends. Let's say you get out to 10%. That means you're getting out to 250 to 500 people with one post. You guys can do way more than any one single person can do collectively. And Scotty, I can't wait for this promoter stuff. You got them lined up already?
I've sent out a few messages, but getting everything closed is, I think, going to be the hard thing to do. Which if it will happen, I think it will be great. But it's just a matter of getting there. It's like going to the gym. Getting there sucks. Like waking up at 5:30 in the morning, getting dressed, it sucks. The entire time you're asking yourself, this is a terrible idea. Why am I doing this? But once you're there, it's like, this isn't too bad. I actually enjoy this. But when you're done with it and you're leaving the gym, it's like, wow. You feel like a completely different mind. You feel like you're ready to take over anything. And I think if we can apply that same thing to the sport, I think it will be amazing.
That is such a great translation. That is what's happening. That is what happened. You don't want to do it. The work that needs to be done is work that nobody wants to do. Sickles just said what an organization is, and basically he broke down every step of it. Nobody wants to talk about finances. It has to be one of the building blocks of it. There has to be rules. There has to be sanctions. There has to be members. There has to be a CEO. There has to be a board of trustees. All of that stuff has to exist. It's all the work that no one wants to do. It sucks. It's terrible. It's nobody wants to do it, but it has to be done. And when it happens, we all will benefit. All of us.
Robbie replied to something that said, "Design a class where everyone can have fun." So the one thing, so here's going to towards the future of, like, let's say everything is divided. So what will there be, like an MWFA style, like, or very simple build style for if we ever reach the national level for all the beginner drivers?
So everything that we do for the sport should be addressed under one thing. Is it better for the sport? Does it make the sport better? So I throw it back to you. Does an MWFA class make the sport better?
I mean, it's kind of like well,
It's not a trick
build
question. I'm not trying. Just answer this. Whatever comes off the top of your head. There's no wrong answer.
as terms of, like, building wise, no, but I think the giving the exposure to people that would most likely never be able to have it is where the value of a class like that comes from.
Boom, you nailed it. So there is value in having that class. If the organization answers everything that we should do with that thought process, it answers itself. MWFA class is a home run, and it should be adopted everywhere. Everywhere. We should get as many people in these cars as we possibly can. We should do it safely. Okay, there may be some things that we got to do with safety and stuff, but we should do it safely, because the last thing we want to do is get someone killed. Hey, hold on just a second. Okay. But yeah, it's a home run. Home run. Robbie.
Who would have thought that the artist from Pennsylvania would have created the first ever set of unified derby rules? Let's give it up for Jason Sauer.
Yeah, I mean, it's a home run. It's great. There's no denying it. It should be adopted almost everywhere. It is such a great start to our sport. It is. So this is funny. It's a gateway class.
It really is.
It is. That's exactly what it is, and that's the way we should look at it. And look, Sauer should be in the Hall of Fame someday because of that. Like, that is the greatest thing ever.
MWFA is like the marijuana demolition derby. You know, you try it out, you're like, this is pretty cool, and then next thing you know,
Dude,
bad things are happening.
Hey, what do you think about this comment?
Drive shows the driver's ability to not drive. I mean, I agree, but I also disagree. I think, like, I'm. Let me think about this before I say something.
Drive the car is what he said.
So, when it comes to the MWFA class, if you ask me, it's a class built for two types of people: mad doggers or baggers. Because with the MWFA class, you could sit with your nose in the corner with the back out all night long, and you're going to be good. But when it comes to being the class that takes that, well, I don't know. Because on one hand, it technically does make it about the driver. Because if you get hit anywhere on 90% of the cars where you're not allowed to move anything, you're going to have a wiring issue. You're going to have some type of issue. But at the same time, though, when I don't know if it would be considered the best version of an entry level class, because in my eyes at least, an entry level class, it's not just about the driving; it is also about the building. You know, it's kind of like, it's why I think youth classes should be like a stocker version of a compact, because this is the entry level. It is what starts everything you have. It needs to teach you how to build and drive. And the NWFA class does not teach you how to build; it teaches you how to drive, which you could argue is more important than building, but you could argue the other way against that.
I think you answered it. I don't have anything to elaborate on. That was well thought out. That was a good answer. Um, yeah, I think somebody mentioned, who was it? Pete. Pete mentioned the youth class was first. Casey Smith did that. I think the youth class and the MWFA is two different
True.
categories. I think the youth credit goes to Casey for sure, and then I think Sauer gets, because anybody can get in the MWFA. They both are avenues to get people into our sport, which is extremely important. So,
I get you. And I personally, I've ran Casey's youth class for years, and quite frankly, I loved it. I think when it comes to building like skill sets, building and driving wise, I think that's the perfect class to do it.
yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, dude, I don't want to get off here, but I've got to put a couple kids to bed, and I know we've been on here a while, so I personally wanted to thank everybody for coming over from your stuff. I wanted to thank you for having me on and giving the platform to me. So I appreciate that, Iceman. Hey, hey,
Awesome. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for having me.
and then thank you for talking about real stuff, man, and just being real, because that's all we can be. So
I think when it comes to being real, I think that's why a lot of people don't watch a lot of stuff, is because like everything you're saying is a lie, and you know it's a lie, and I know it's a lie, but you don't want to admit it. Like I mean, I'm either hated or loved in the Derby world. There's not really an in between. You either think I'm the worst thing ever, or you think I'm a pretty great kid. There's not really an in between, which I'm sure at the end of this winter, by the time all these lives are said and done, I'm either going to be loved or hated. There's not really an in between.
well,
But
I will. I guarantee you, I will continue to beat the drum of what you're doing, and because we need more of it. So I appreciate it, man. Thank you very
awesome.
much.
Thank you. Thank all you guys for tuning in. We shall see you guys tomorrow.
All right.
Um,